let me at the outset thank AMA to giving me an opportunity in Aurangabad to share a few reminiscences of the past very interesting life, as I would say. The first incident that comes to my mind today is when I went to Mumbai during the summer vacation, and I was staying with my cousin who came from the then very famous missionary school, Wilson High School. And casually he mentioned to me, Father, would you like to be a student of this school? That cousin later on was the director of the Bombay Hospital. He is a very famous surgeon. So he is an alumni of that school. So casually I went with him to the school just to have a look at the school. And we realized that we had gone there at the wrong time because the entrance examination for admissions to the different classes of the school was on. And we just inquired as to whether it is still possible to sit in that examination. Somehow, and this is how sometimes luck also works, one of the teachers whom I met along with my cousin, Dr. Bandureka, he said, okay, if you are ready, you can sit. And I was brought up and educated in a small town nearby, Chalisgaon. That time it had hardly a population of 20,000, but we had a very good school, that I must confess. And I was a typical school boy from the rural background with a folded cap and a simple pajama. So we went to the school, and as the last boy to enter the examination hall, I was allowed to sit in the classroom. After reading the question paper, the first question paper as usual, to prohibit too many people coming to the school, was in mathematics. So, because that was the school well known for every year contributing the top 10 in the Bombay state. It was a combined state along with Gujarat, and to get into top 10 was not that easy. After I read through the question paper, casually, the teacher whom I first met to get me admitted into this examination hall was passing by. I just turned up to him and said, Sir, is it necessary to answer all these questions? He said, why? I said, I can tell you all the answers orally just now. So he was surprised. And that is how it gives you a turn in your life. He took me out of the examination hall. I appears to be a naughty boy. And he asked me question number one. I gave him all the replies offhand. There was geometry, there was algebra, some equations. I said, yes, this is the answer of this question. He straightway took me to the principal of the school. Principal Vakchaure. It was a mission school. It's a very formal missionary high school. And he introduced me to Vakchaure in my rustic dress. Being a missionary school, as usual, it was all neat, tidy, everybody well dressed up. But somehow Vakchaure took fancy for me. And he said, okay, he doesn't need any examination, admit him into our class. And that is how I was admitted into that time the high school examination used to be after the 11th standard. So for the last year, that is the 11th standard, I was admitted at a school, and I came from the Marathi medium, and that school was in the English medium. For the first 3 months, I had a little difficulty in expression and struggling with the language, but as the expectation of the school was, that time there used to be 4 quarterly examinations before the final examination. So in the first quarterly examination, they found I had topped the list of this class. And then they inquired more about me. Where do I stay? Then the principal took interest. And we used to stay in a small chal in the Girda. And really we had only 2 rooms, the sitting room and the kitchen. And then I said, do you need any study facilities? I said, I would welcome if I can sit in the school after the school hours and do some work here itself. Traditionally, there was no such facility. But the magnanimity of the principal was that being a mission school, they had a prayer room that those who belong to the Christian faith, at the end of the school hours, and every Sunday they used to hold a prayer. So they said the only problem will be after the school, you will have to wait for 15 minutes and then the prayer room will be yours. And that is how I could study at Liberty. And the very interesting part is that this school had a tradition. We have now traditions in most of our education institutions of alumni associations. But this is what I am telling you for the year 1949-50. They had a Wilson High School Old Boys Association. And you will be surprised to know, as a member of that Wilson High School Old Boys Association, last year we met all together at Dadar. So that Old Boys Association is that active. So this interaction with the first teacher whom I met, the principal, who so to say nurtured me without looking at my rural dress, that gave a turn to my life. And 2 things were very clear, that the rural background need not be a handicap for you. And there are good people in the society who are there all around to help you. So take their help. And that is what always helped me throughout the life. So I thought I must share this first incident which gave a turn to my life with you first. Then there were 2 years in the science college, and then I was admitted into the engineering college. And in the admission list, naturally I was at the top of the list. That time in Maharashtra there were only 3 colleges, engineering colleges. So the principal, without asking as to which subject I want to pursue in engineering, had put me, that time it was not known as electronics or information technology or computer, it was known as telecommunications. And I was admitted as a student of the telecommunications. So when I came on the first day of the college and saw the list against my name, it was written that admitted to telecommunication engineering, I immediately rushed to the principal's room. I had not known him. And I told him, sir, will you kindly excuse me if I can request for a change in the subject, because all the top 10 or 12 boys that time in the admission used to opt for the telecommunication. He said that no, because you are the first, we admitted you to the telecommunications. I said, no, but I want to pursue civil engineering. So he was surprised that somebody who is already admitted to the telecommunications is requesting to switch over. And naturally there were large number of students in the queue for admission to this electronics department. And I had no difficulty in coming back to civil engineering. But I had a first interesting encounter on the day of admission itself, and that I would like to share with you. On the first day, there used to be the purchase of equipment for the workshop, for the drawing materials, books also. This is the story of 1952. So as I went around purchasing those things one by one, the drawing paper which was kept there, and we were supposed to purchase some 10 or 12 drawing sheets. Now we call it engineering graphics. That time it used to be called as engineering drawing. Somehow it just attracted my attention. that at the bottom, at the right hand corner, the maker of that paper, the manufacturer of that paper, his name was printed as Whatman, England. Whatman paper was very famous that time for the quality. So it struck me, I am studying in an engineering college in India, and paper is not something which needs to be really imported like this. So why are they putting this imported paper for sale in the college, in the government college? So I went to the professor in charge of all these arrangements, and initially he himself happened to be later my professor in the same subject of engineering drawing. Professor Gunda, many of you have known him later on, he became the principal also in the technical education service. So I asked him, sir, is it necessary to purchase all the drawing papers here in the college itself? Because they are available in the market and at much cheaper rate. At that time, this Whatman paper used to cost us 3 rupees a paper. And because I was a student of the science college in Pune itself, I knew the market rates of the different materials. And the normal drawing paper of the same size used to cost that time only 50 paisa. I said, why are you asking us to purchase this Whatman? He said, no, it has a better quality, your pencil work and drawing work is much better presented, it looks very attractive. I said, sir, if I do not purchase this paper, go to the market and just purchase a normal drawing paper, do you have any objection? He said, according to rules, I have no objection as such, but it is better for you to keep your drawing attractive and getting good marks to use this paper. I said, okay sir, let me try. I will not purchase this paper. I went to the market and purchased our normal drawing papers that were available then. But later on, when I went into the class, I found he himself was a teacher in that subject. And there I had the real tiff with him. He started staring with me, and on the first day, giving a long lecture how the instruments and the papers and the other things are very important in preparing the engineering drawing. So I just raised my hand. I said, sir, are we here to learn about the instruments or about the content of the engineering drawing? And he didn't like my question. He said, no, it all depends, but ultimately the examiner also looks at many other things. I said, I hope that he will look at the content of the engineering drawing also first, before he looks at the other things. And to my pleasant surprise, in the first year of engineering, I stood first in that subject also. So, I am mentioning this, right on the first day I had a tiff with him, but he didn't take it in that way and was quite good in the end and was very helpful in the end also. Later on, I decided to enter the government service, and in the government service, one of the first, so to say, executive appointments I had was as an executive engineer of the Aurangabad, that is in the Madhavrao district. Many of you may have heard about it or seen it also. That was one of the challenging jobs in the sense that right after our independence, that was the largest dam we had decided to build. And because the foundations of the earth dam were very, very deep, almost 30 meters, 100 feet below the riverbed, how to reach that foundation rock was one of the technically ticklish problems. And the contract was given to one of the French firms. If I make a mention of that firm also, I have no sort of hesitation in making a mention also. It's a famous engineering construction firm, Rodeo Hazara. And they were working under the French consultant. And the French consultants were headed by one of the chief engineers of France, Monsieur Maire. He was the chief engineer himself, and one of the renowned dam builders. But after 2 years of work, ultimately the foundation could not be made impermeable. And one of the requirements of any dam is that the water should be stored and shouldn't pass away from the bottom of the dam. So that was a geological problem, and because the French people were not aware of our Deccan geology, our basalt, the way it disintegrates and the sands are produced and the sand layers are produced, somehow they had copied the technique which they used in the Alps. And our geology is quite different from the geology of the Alps. But this is how we are many times mistaken or knowingly or unknowingly taken on a wrong path. Actually, before selecting these contracting agencies and the consultants, government had taken care to send a team of engineering officers from Maharashtra to visit Switzerland, from where this rodeo Hazrats come. They had worked in Alps, constructing many hydroelectric projects, and also visit France to understand this technology of bentonite grouting. But it did not work. And there was a tremendous row in the assembly, not the type we see nowadays in the parliament, much more decent. But the government was in difficulty. And I was posted there to see what can be done now to retrieve the situation. And there again, maybe because of my earlier background and some of the instances like the ones that I shared with you just now, I thought here it's not possibly the new way of thinking which we have borrowed from Switzerland or France that we click. We like to give some sort of a local touch in the solution of this problem. And soil mechanics that time was not a subject in the engineering college. And we had started constructing large dams without introducing the subject of soil mechanics in the engineering curriculum. So we had almost the first batch of engineers from Maharashtra service, we had to learn the soil mechanics after joining the irrigation department. We had started establishing laboratories to distinguish between the qualities of the soils and which type of soils to use in foundation, which is to be used in the casing of the dam, in the hearting of the dam, like that. And we had no trained manpower. That time also the shortage of engineers was one of the challenges. The story I am giving you is the story of 1960-62 when I was posted there. So what we thought, we went around, the dam site is near Rahuri, and we tried to find out from the schools how is the subject of mathematics and science taught in the schools. And I was fairly impressed again. This I am again telling you that somehow we are neglecting the potential of our rural areas. And I found that the students were quite sharp, and whatever I could talk to them about the latest science of soil mechanics then, they could grasp and they could understand what I am trying to convey to them in this new subject of soil mechanics. So we thought that we will wait and first recruit some of these 11th standard, that is matriculate boys with more than 50% mark in science and mathematics, and groom them in the new subject, not engineering graduates, because they were in demand but scarcely available. So we trained them for 3 months in the subject of soil mechanics and handed over the entire laboratory to them. That was manned by them. And then told them that we need the soil, and later on the artificial mixture of the soil of these following properties. You go around within a 5 kilometer radius, go to the fields and find out if this soil is available somewhere and from which fields. And to our pleasant surprise, after 2 months, many of these students came back saying, yes sir, survey number so and so, village number so and so, and the soil of this quality is available. And then we made a few trials, and later on we found that yes, indigenously this dam can be completed. And that was one of the first, so to say, technological success stories of Maharashtra, and government of Maharashtra that time also issued a very formal letter and circular that Murad Dam foundation construction should be filmed for its technical excellence. So that gave me another ray of hope and confidence that no, our indigenous potential is very great, and if we harness them properly, then things can be changed and things can be done in the proper manner. I will not reiterate on the constructions and the designs that are happening in the state of Maharashtra, because much has already been said on that on a variety of platforms. I will quickly switch over to Delhi. And in Delhi, when I went to Delhi and joined the Central Water Commission, one of the national problems was the challenge, the environmental challenge that was being posed to the Narmada project. The award for the Narmada water dispute had already been given in 1978, and from 1980 onwards we were supposed to start the construction. I went to Delhi in 1984, but the construction had not started because of various disputes on the environmental side in law. So when I went through the entire problem, then I realized that most of these disputes are imaginary without understanding what the environmental science is. That is how I got initiated into the environmental science. And then I had to study, and one of the those who were agitating against the project, they had a problem. The problem was that before I went to Delhi, I was Secretary of in Maharashtra. And that time this award was given in 1978. So, as a person in charge, that time there were no roads in Dhargaon, Tehsil, and to access the banks of Narmada itself was very difficult, almost an inaccessible area. But when these people who were agitating, so to say, on the environmental grounds, they came to meet me in Delhi. The first question I asked them, have you seen that area? And this was in 1985. Then I told them that we are speaking to a person who had walked all over that area in 1978. And when there were no roads, no access, I had walked for over 28 kilometers from Dhargaon to reach the banks of Narmada. So I know inch and inch of that area. Now come on, now let us discuss what the environmental problems are. And for the first time I was surprised that most of them had not seen the area. Our environmental movement, it's an important subject to be seriously taken, but unfortunately that was my first lesson. I realized that the Indian environmental movement is being built up on a weak foundation. Without understanding what the environment is, how it works, what are the interacting factors there. So later on we sorted out a number of issues, and now of course the entire project is completed. But because of the partly internal agitations and partly somehow there are many people unfortunately in our country who take pleasure in writing in foreign journals and telling them how wrongly things are being done in India. And that was one of the problems for pushing this project. Being the largest irrigation project in the world, World Bank had shown interest. And according to World Bank rules, they were supposed to share some 30% of the cost, and 70% was to be put in by us. And of course, government, being an interstate project of 4 states, Government of India was supposed to help us out. So the World Bank initially showed interest, but later on they started showing very poor response to whatever discussions were taking place. I was chairman of the Central Water Commission. Many of you must have heard about the name of Mr. Naresh Chandra. He was the secretary of the Ministry of Water Resources. Later on, he became the cabinet secretary of Government of India. And later on, he was also our ambassador in the United States, a very accomplished person. So we were asked to go to the World Bank and discuss this matter over with them. Initially, myself and Naresh Chandra, we had some internal dialogue and we worked out a strategy. When we went for the meeting with the World Bank, there were about 25 heads of different divisions in the World Bank. Somebody from the economics, somebody from the finance, somebody from the environment side, somebody from the civil engineering side. And Naresh Chandra, as an opening batsman, said that we would be very much interested if the World Bank gets involved in this project, because this is the largest irrigation project in the world, and we would like also to learn from the advanced technologies in the world if the World Bank gets involved in this. That's our interest in this. So we would like you to get more and more involved and let us put a pragmatic program on the board to pursue it seriously. Then it was my term as the chairman of the Central Water Commission to explain what the project is. As I already decided, I was very brief because they know what the project is. And I told them, sir, we are here only with a small message. And that is what gave a shock to them. Our message is, we have decided to implement this project. We are here only to ask you that whoever does this project will get the credit of doing the largest project in the world. Would you be a sharer in that credit? They were all startled. They were not accustomed to listen like this to the developing countries, and meeting ended more or less abruptly. They said, okay, we'll think over and we'll come back to it. Due credit to the World Bank, they came back to us, saying that we would like to join this. A formal agreement was signed, everything was signed, all the 4 states agreed on this sharing and other patterns, environmental protection measure, rehabilitation, so many things. But again, unfortunately, and that is what I want to stress again, after the World Bank having agreed, also, somehow our environmental activists went around the other countries, and that was very demeaning, telling them how things are going wrong in India, and therefore please withdraw from this project. Then again, in 1989, there was a stalemate that whether we pursue on our own, because the financing provisions in our budget initially depended on the 1/3 of it coming from the World Bank. So if they are not coming, we will have to replan our strategy, and that's exactly what I had told the World Bank also, that you stop doing the project in 10 years with your support, we will do it in 15 years. It's as simple as that. So they ultimately, because there could not be a consensus within the countries who are members of the World Bank. World Bank, many of you may be knowing, is nothing but it's a cooperative bank of the country. And we are a member of the cooperative bank, we are not strangers to that. And being one of the large countries, normally one of the directors of the World Bank, which makes the decision, their executive council, is also elected from India. So they announced a meeting for discussing this project. And one of the secretaries from Government of India, after his retirement, he was posted in the World Bank as the Government of India's director. After listening to the initial dialogues and debates within the World Bank, he wrote to the Government of India. Of course, he was my personal friend also, being a colleague. In the meanwhile, I had myself become the secretary in the Ministry of Water Resources. He said that people have been so much misinformed here that it will be difficult for him as a director sitting on the board of the World Bank to pilot this project properly. So will you send Mr. Chitale? And the World Bank rules have an interesting provision that if the sitting director has some difficulty or is on leave or is sick, then temporarily somebody else can become the director of the World Bank. So I was the director of the World Bank for one day. On the day the agenda, approval to the India's Sardar Sarovar project, it was known as Sardar Sarovar project in their terms, not Narmada project, was the first item on the agenda. And 45 minutes were allotted. I was sitting around the board, and many questions were asked, and Japan, as usual, was very active in environmental areas. Interestingly enough, Indonesia was very active. They had studied this project in depth. That is what must be said to their credit. And there are a number of questions. Before they approve, they would like to be satisfied that all this care will be taken in India. So 45 minutes agenda item went on for 3 hours and 45 minutes. It was approved. They said, yes, we are satisfied and we will be with you on this project. But there is a difficulty, formal difficulty now, that many of you may be knowing the working of the World Bank internally, that their financing unit is not in Washington, that is in Paris. And in the Paris, before that financing unit, that in those years, I am giving you the story of the year 90. The Green movement was sweeping the Europe, and they had staged a demonstration against the World Bank's unit in Paris on environmental grounds, that don't finance projects which are environmentally damaging, one of them being, of course, Sardar Sarovar. So they said, we'll have a difficulty because now this approval will go to the finance committee and they will meet after 2-3 days in Paris and there will be demonstrations. So one of the British persons, Mr. Major, he was an economist, he was the vice president of the World Bank. So the meeting decided that Chitale and Major together should go to that meeting of the finance committee. Both of us had nothing formally to do with that meeting, but so that any question that comes can be properly sorted out. And as was expected, before we could enter the meeting hall, outside the World Bank's office in Paris, there were about 45 persons, very well dressed, well behaved person, but with placards, down with the Sardar Sarovar project. And they halted us. They knew what the agenda of that meeting is, and they said, no, we don't want, this is an environmentally damaging project, and we would not like this project to be financed by the World Bank. So naturally, Mr. Major, who was the vice president of the bank, and myself, we tried to talk to them. Would you kindly tell us the reasons why you don't want this project to go ahead, which the government of India feels is so beneficial? So they said a few points. I said, yes, they are all being taken care of. I said, but what is the proof that they are being taken care of? And impromptu, I had to say, okay, you can listen to the meeting of the finance committee. You are welcome. And Major was also taken by surprise a little, but he said, yes, 2 of your leaders can come and sit with us in the finance committee as observers, because we will be negotiating all the final terms of financing, and you listen as to how we are negotiating and what precautions or what activities we are including as a part of the project while implementing the project, how we are trying to make it environmentally better rather than damaging. So they went, and I must again say, those people who were sort of outside the building demonstrating behaved extremely well inside the finance committee. They did not raise a word, they did not shout, they did not raise their hand. The meeting went on for almost 2.5 hours, going nitty-gritty into the different clauses and provisions to be signed in the agreement. And there I realized, and I must say that the environmental movement in Europe is much enlightened, and unfortunately we have not sort of learned from that movement and tried to do it in a very tangential manner in India. That is the lesson I learned in that meeting. All those large finance committee essentially consists of large donor countries of the World Bank. Because ultimately, whatever the decision of the bank board of directors, the finance committee has to own it in the end. So they were also finally convinced that environmentally this will be a project which will upgrade the environment, natural environment in the area rather than damage it. And then that was also agreed. That was my first, so to say, long-term encounter with the World Bank. Incidentally, World Bank and these international organizations keep track of different persons, and somehow I happen to be one of them. So, before proceeding, I will tell you how they keep track. When I was awarded the Stockholm Water Prize, just as we have Times of India in India, a very prestigious English journal of English newspaper of long standing, there is Malaysian Times. And in that Malaysian Times, against the editorial, there was a full-page article. Stockholm Water Prize goes to a person who takes the World Bank on. Somebody insider, when that in Delhi, I tried to get that issue. When I read that article, somebody insider, apparently World Bank itself had initiated to write this entire story, including the episode on the Narmada project and number of, I was involved later on as chairman and secretary with number of other World Bank activities and projects. They knew everything, more detail, more than what I could remember also. But there was a full page article, and this is how in the international area I again learned my lesson. You have to be very careful because you are tracked consistently and on a long-term basis by number of observers. So what you say, what you do, where you go, to whom you meet, you have to be very, very careful. Later on, because of various fortunate things and a lot of good work that took place, one of the things I must share with you, one of the things I found in Narmada, apart from the environmental issues, the Narmada Control Authority, which was established as a result of the Narmada Award, their headquarters was in Delhi when I took over as the chairman of the Central Water Commission, and that surprised me that we had to do the project in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh border, and why are the people sitting here in Delhi? So when I became the secretary, then the first, some of the few early decisions that I took was, I asked the Narmada Control Authority, entire, lock, stock and barrel, to shift to Indore. And now that is, for the first time, that my wife got involved into this project, because the ladies from those offices gathered her in my house with a request to tell your husband to cancel this, because after all now things have been agreed, things are moving, everything. So what is the problem? We'll manage the project from Delhi. And when I came back from the office, that was the message for me to cancel the transfer of the Narmada Control Authority to Indore. So naturally she keeps on listening to me, so she listened to me, and the order was not cancelled and the authority shifted. And that really gave the turn. Unfortunately, in the Indian administration, and I'm saying it with full responsibility, the traits of the British administration have continued. And this long distance control, rather than the on-field activity, has still been ingrained in the Indian system. And that was not particular for Narmada also. The second thing where also I had to take a very hard decision, of course, but that was not left to me, that was left to the minister, and I must say he took it in the right spirit. The Brahmaputra board for the development of the northeast region was established as back as in 1978. But up to 1990, the Brahmaputra board, that is for almost 12 years, with all full-fledged staff, again was working from Delhi. Brahmaputra, many of you must have seen, and if not, kindly go and see how large a river can be. 18 kilometers from one bank to another. You can't see the other bank in its widest stretch. The models for the taming of Brahmaputra or constructing dams or bridges on that Brahmaputra, they were being built in the Khadakwasla Research Laboratory of the Government of India, Central Water Power Research Station. And all the people from Assam or Arunachal or Meghalaya, they have to come all the way to Pune to see and work on those models. So fortunately, one of the first decisions taken by Rajiv Gandhi, when I told him this story, was to establish another similar laboratory on the banks of Brahmaputra. And now that laboratory is doing wonderful work. So to approach the development area as an integral part of our activity has been, even now, still missing from the Government of India's agenda. Our bureaucracy is still white-collared bureaucracy. And therefore they are not getting into the roots. And that is why many of these dichotomies as we see, or the differences as we see, is because of that attitude, that Saranjam Shahi, Mughal Shahi, Delhi Shahi attitude and the British attitude still persists. We are not with the people. And it changed the entire scenario. When Brahmaputra board's meetings started taking place in those 7 states, one after the other, for want of time I will not be able to tell you the interactions with the states. But one I cannot miss, because the Chief Minister of Mizoram, after our second meeting, his words I always remember. He says, after the second meeting of the Brahmaputra board held in the northeast, now I have started feeling that I am a real Indian. This is how we have been mismanaging our own affairs. So these are some of the lessons that we keep on learning as we proceed. And then, as a secretary, I had also the responsibility of having a dialogue with our neighboring countries with whom we share water. And first thing was with Nepal. And again, what we learn about these many political high-ups is not the true picture of their life. Lalu Prasad ji was the Chief Minister of Bihar. And Mujkund Dubey, many of you must have read about him in the news, so he was our representative in the United Nations, and that time he was the Foreign Secretary. Two of us were very close friends. So Nepal dialogue was just not progressing. And all our rivers, Kosi and Gandaki, they all come from Nepal. And we wanted to tame these rivers, build a hydroelectric project, build irrigation projects, so many water development work. And the formal agreements were not taking place. So what's the way out? So myself and Muchukund Dubey, we went to meet Lalu Prasad ji. And I must tell you, Lalu Prasad ji was so open and so forthright. And our request was that water cannot be a subject which can be handled on the file. And decisions can be made on paper. Water is the subject where decisions will have to be made in open. Because the people will have to share that decision. And unless the people are with you, things won't work. So what is the way out? Lalu said, I am with you, you tell me, I will do that. He said, please announce India-Nepal open dialogue on shared rivers, and that will be held in Patna. And you be the opening speaker at that. And he agreed. And it went extremely well, and so well that now you see number of India-Nepal projects going on. And credit goes to the positive initiative taken by the Chief Minister of Bihar then. Similar neighboring state was Bhutan, and we had an interesting background for Bhutan also. When I was the chairman of the Central Water Commission, while our commission's meeting was going on one day, we had a message from the Foreign Office that China had agreed to construct two hydroelectric projects in the northern part of Bhutan and commission them. That is what China's proposal was to Nepal, and to commission them, because all that area remains in darkness for want of electricity. It's snow-clad for almost 8 or 9 months. So what should be our response? And naturally, at that time, the Prime Minister again said, please ask Chitale what to do with this. And the message came while the Commission's meeting was going on. So we deliberated for a while, and we decided to send a message back to Bhutan. Please tell them that within the next 18 months, those two hydroelectric projects will start generating power in Bhutan. We did not know the location. We did not know, because Central Water Commission designs the hydroelectric project. We did not know how to design a project under snow cover, but we said yes, we'll do it. And that was again, just as in the Mula Dam, on the basis of the conviction in our internal strength. And then we started, the message went, and Bhutan immediately said yes, okay, well, they told China thank you, and we are getting it constructed with the help of India. We started browsing through the biodata of our own young officers who are recruited from the Union Public Service Commission, and we decided one person, one Mr. Agarwal, a very young, smart junior, he will be posted there, and with free hand to take, and again interestingly enough, because politically many times Bihar is put in a very different shape, but that is the nearest state and very hard working labor, I must say. With free hand to select labor, to decide about their wages, to transport them by air if somebody falls ill in the snow area. And the project was delivered within 18 months, and in that year's report of the Central Water Commission, annually it is placed before the Parliament, the photographs of these two stations were printed on the front cover. This is what the Indian internal potential is. But somehow we don't appeal to this potential. And that was another lesson learned that time again. Then the third encounter, so to say, was with Pakistan. We had a number of agreements, things were moving, but there were some hurdles in making progress on some of the projects. So we started holding regular meetings, and dialogue is very important. And the new topic that is now emerging, and I will dwell on it for a few minutes again later, is the topic of water diplomacy. Water is not only a technological subject. It requires a lot of understanding of economics, a lot of understanding of sociology, understanding of the politics, a number of other things than pure engineering of, that is important, that is the core, but that is not adequate. After a large number of meetings, the High Commissioner of Pakistan, who was stationed in Delhi, he was convinced that this dialogue can be pursued, and we can be together, positively linked together through the medium of water. So we decided to take a delegation to Pakistan, and we sent the list of the delegates. And the sensitive issue, again the Pakistan objected, because the delegation included the secretary in charge of water from Jammu and Kashmir state. They said Kashmir is a disputed area according to Pakistan, and therefore this delegation cannot be received. So again a large number of meetings took place, and we convinced them, we told them, assuming when you feel that Kashmir will be a part of Pakistan, we are not going to take away these hydroelectric projects and dams in our pocket back to India. They will stay here. So please, for God's sake, you are going to get additional water, you are going to also get regulated water, not only additional. And the top brass were convinced, but then politics come in the way, the local politics. When actually our delegation, along with the secretary of the Jammu and Kashmir, because ours is a union state, many times we make that mistake. Ours is neither a federal country nor a unitary country, like for example France or Japan, they are unitary countries, there are no states. So ours is a union of states. So when we discuss the issue like Nepal, and I went to the chief minister first, or we discuss the issue with Dhaka, we should, in good ethics, discuss it through the chief minister of West Bengal. So similarly, we had taken the Jammu and Kashmir's secretary with us. We landed in Lahore, outside Lahore, thousands of people with a car, go back Chitale. We were of course undeterred because the higher top we had already had discussions, and a large area of convergence on number of issues has appeared. So we kept quiet, we stayed on the airport for a while, and the administration took charge of those demonstrators. And that meeting went on extremely well again. And later on, not to give you too much of the secret, but whatever is already published, one day after coming back to Aurangabad, I had a telephone call from India today that we have got hold of some sensitive papers, and this is what we are going to write in India today. What is your reaction? I said, you yourself are saying these are sensitive papers. How can I give any reaction on the phone? But in the next issue, this is going to appear. I said, this is your choice. Then they said, what is the way out? We don't want to be again caught into a controversy. So I said, whatever you are going to print, one thing you can do without getting a controversy, you just fax it to me. If I don't get back to you, you just keep quiet, that's all. You print it the way you like. And that's what happened. And the project is now on. So, dialogue, diplomacy is another very large sector of the water negotiations, and that is the last responsibility as Secretary of Government of India. That time Bangladesh was under military rule. President Irshad had overthrown the democratic government, and we were not sure what will happen with Farakka dialogue, and number of things we had. Just as we had planned things with Nepal and Bhutan and Pakistan, we were also looking at the potential of development along with Bangladesh. And Sirha was minister to Chitale, you will have to perform this difficult task. You will have to go and meet Irshad on a one-to-one basis and talk to him about all these issues very frankly and convince him that we don't mean anything ill to Bangladesh. We want to develop jointly with Bangladesh. Why he chose me like this? Because apart from the two hydroelectric projects we had constructed in Bhutan, we wanted number of large projects also to be followed and constructed in Bhutan. So we wanted to have an agreement with Bhutan. So again, before I went to Bangladesh, that responsibility was also given to me to meet the king of Bhutan personally and have a dialogue with him on all these issues. So that this China factor doesn't come in again and again. The idea was to rule out the China factor. And many of you must have read about his personality, very, very well read and educated in the United States with a master's degree. Particularly a person who has read and who is himself, so to say, a good environmentalist. And those were the issues which were likely to come in the dialogue between India, because much of the Bhutan is forested and very nice, densely forested. Again, the meeting as a very formal meeting, 3 meetings were set up for our delegation. I was supposed to meet personally, just as a matter of courtesy, to the king, and then to their cabinet, and then to their departments in series. That was the day's program. When I went to meet the king, I found him a very different person than what we think about a king. He was so well educated, so well read, that we got involved into a personal dialogue as to how developing countries should develop, what should be our priorities, what is the role of hydroelectricity in that, how poverty can be removed, etc., etc. So outside, They were all sitting and waiting, and the cabinet was waiting, and the other departments were meeting. So the meeting, which was scheduled to take place for 20 minutes, went on almost for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I could see how fortunate is Bhutan having a king like that. But then the thing went on smoothly, and we are doing a lot of projects in Bhutan also. So because of that success story, I was asked to go and meet the military dictator Isha. So I also found in Irshad a very receptive and a very intelligent. Leave aside his military dictatorship, but I must say, you don't read in the newspaper anything about Farak. So those dialogues yielded results, and there are still some issues like Kista getting sorted out, but things were smoothened out substantially. As far as the Stockholm Water Prize is concerned, let me tell you again an inside story. How I got this prize. In Stockholm, there is a murmur, and which is true. Now I can confess, it's true. There is a truth in that. That before a Nobel Prize is given, or the Stockholm Water Prize is given, just as before you settle a marriage, you see the girl and the boy first, approve him, and then you start talking about the marriage. So, in the previous year, they had invited me for a lecture in Stockholm. I did not know about this practice then. But the parliament was in session, and when the invitation came, I just put it aside. Whether I can go during the parliament session, I will be able to take aside that time. Because the Stockholm Water Prize ceremony takes place in August when the parliament is in session. So I thought at the end of the day I will reply. I will make up my mind whether to go or not to go. That was in 1992, my last year as secretary. Incidentally, it so happened, and I can give you his name also. His name was one Professor Mishra from the Banaras Hindu University. And we had initiated, during my tenure as chairman of the Central Water Commission, later on secretary, working with Rajiv Gandhi, we had initiated this Ganga cleanup project, which now the present government has also revisited. And incidentally, I am a member of that authority now established, with chief ministers and 4 union ministers. So, Mishra wrote a letter in the Stockholm Waterfront, in the official journal of the Stockholm Water Institute, which keeps on identifying potential persons for this prize, and they keep on doing many other things. So they asked me just for any lecture, and at the end of the day, when I saw the Stockholm Waterfront's issue on the front page was Professor Mishra's photo, and again, as usual, he had written a long article saying how Ganga cleanup is a bluff. I immediately dictated the letter to Stockholm. Yes, I am coming, and I will speak on the water quality management of Ganga. And that led to the Stockholm Water Prize. Because somehow we hope the days will change and are changing. We have now Nobel Prize from Bhopal. We have another Stockholm Water Prize. So days are changing. But that time we did not know the practices and etiquettes. So one day I got a telephone call that Mr. So-and-so, who is the Secretary of the General of the Stockholm Water Prize, wants to come and meet you in Delhi. At that time I was Secretary General of the International Commission on Irrigation. So I gave him an appointment in the office, and he felt offended. I did not know the practice. So when he came, and he, of course, naturally, even though on telephone he felt offended, he came to the office and he said, well, Mr. Chitale, do you have any problem if I come to your house? He said, no. Then why have you given me an appointment in the office? I said, what's wrong? He says the invitations for the Nobel Prize and the Stockholm Water Prize are not sent by letters. They are given in your house to you and to your wife and to your family on behalf of the King of Kings. That's the problem. I did not know. I immediately apologized. I said, I did not know this practice. But then things on, and then finally, in the second visit, everything was confirmed, date was confirmed. Then another small problem came up. He came up with the formal etiquette and he said, we need your measurements of your coat and trouser because everything has to be in black and you have to wear a black suit and a black bow. He said, sorry, you want this prize to be given to an Indian and you will be televising this entire program. He said, yes, the whole thing is televised live. I said, then how will the people know that an Indian has got this prize? So he says, but since the initiation of the Nobel Prize, these are our rules. I said, then let's wait for a little. We go back and request your king to reconsider those rules now. I will appear, I will certainly come and take the prize at the hands of the king, but I will appear in the Indian dress. I must say, the king was nice, and of course later on I had an opportunity to meet him on a number of occasions. He changed the rules. And the rules was black dress, tie, oblique national dress. So this is how, if we have our own convictions, we have a realization of our own potential, we can change the world. And this is how the things have worked. And when I decided to get off from the international work and come to Aurangabad, I decided to come to Aurangabad in 1989. But because of these number of responsibilities, I was stuck up there up to 1997. So when I finally said, yes, no, I'm going back. Then one day, the Swedish ambassador, I knew him of course very well, he knew me well, he came to see me. He said, sir, as you know, and you are yourself among the founders of many international organizations, so you are one of this global water partnership also. You are the initiator in all this thinking. That water cannot be managed by single agency, it has to be a partnership board. So we would like you to lead South Asia in this topic, because other countries will listen to you. I said, no, but I decided to leave Delhi and go to Aurangabad. I had some other plans for my work. So I came back to Aurangabad, I decided. But then in February I got another call from him. He said, we are holding a meeting of all South Asia countries in Colombo, and you kindly just come there to guide us through this, how to develop a South Asia water partnership, because we have been initiating this in the world. Okay, I said, I will come. And then I was put in a fix, because at the end of the 2 days meeting on the third day, Pakistan put up a proposal that we will join the water partnership if Chitale becomes the president. Very difficult to say no. So I had to quickly respond. I said, okay, if you all feel that I should be there as an active person in the initial formative stage of this South Asia Water Partnership, I have one request. That I will not go back to Delhi now. But I can assure you, we have institutions of international standard and they will be able to manage this work from Aurangabad itself, and Valmi was in my team. In 5 years we had this international office in Valmi, with State Bank of Hyderabad, managing all the international exchange without any flaw, without any fault, without any audit remark. And we succeeded in rearing up the South Asia Water Partnership. That is our Aurangabad potential. Thank you.